Hello, and welcome to the Distance Thinking Podcast. I just want to welcome all Hamilton West teachers and hope you have signed up and subscribed. Right now, we have 0 viewers, hoping to add a few more as we go along. Just here today, we're going to show up at 9 o'clock on Mondays just to catch the Hornet buzz a little bit about what's going on. If you have any suggestions for a tagline, please tell me. As I was going for my morning jog the other day, I jogged by a local high school, and their tagline's "Roll Scotties," and somehow that one confused me a little bit because a Scottie is a terrier, and rolling Scotties, like I get Roll Tides, but I just picture a dog just rolling around on the grass after it's been like sprayed by a hose or something. That doesn't quite inspire me. But somehow that school is doing great. I've heard nothing but positive feedback about their teachers and how they're handling distance learning there. And that's why we're here today. We have 4 Hamilton staff members with us to talk today about distance learning and how it's going. I'd like to introduce Dr. Anthony Finari.
Hey guys.
Ismat Shari.
Good morning.
And our vice principal, Erin Flanagan.
Good morning.
Welcome everybody. To the Distance Learning Podcast, Distance Thinking, I'm sorry. I just wanted to open up today and talk about Zoom and Google Meet, which is what we were discussing last week. It was kind of our tech tool of the week, and specifically Anthony and Ismat are here today to talk about it. I spent some time talking with them about it, and my first question is going to go to you, Anthony, and Ismat, I'm going to ask the same question, is basically Meet versus Zoom. Which one's working for you and why?
As we were just briefly discussing right before we came on with Ismat, I've only been working with Zoom right now. And as we were talking, it has its pros and cons. The pro is you can get more people on your screen if you're using it. The con is that we were talking about is there's some security issues with Zoom that you have to take care of before you go on. And I said, that's all in your settings. And I think we got an email about that, which we should really use, because I said I used it on my phone at first, the Zoom, and had to delete the app off my phone because I was getting so many pop-ups. And when we used it with the codes and everything, and we had it for the last week when we used it on here, and we did a virtual meet for some teachers on Friday that we were testing it out, and it went pretty good. So I'm going to try to use mine as office hours at first. And I know Ismat was using both, but she kind of liked Hangout a little better. So.
Now, Anthony, I know we've kind of talked a little bit about this, and originally you used Meet, and you kind of thought Zoom was a better application for you as far as easier to use. Can you explain why you thought Zoom was actually easier to use than Meet?
Yeah, Zoom, once I got the code and I just copy and paste the code to my Google Classroom assignment, they could just go on and get it. And I said, what Ismat was saying, you can see everybody that is there, and I have the power to mute or unmute them so they can talk. I can ask one of them a question. I can put one of them on and everybody can hear them. And then I can talk and I can mute everybody else while I see everybody too. So I think, like I said, this week I'm going to use it for office hours, and next week move it into more what Ismat's doing is maybe move it into like more of a maybe 15 to 20 minute instruction on something. But it was just more accessible, just as a user friendly for me. I would just more concerned about.
You've explained a little bit, but how exactly, tell the people like how exactly you've used it. You said you're just using it to kind of meet people right now.
Yeah, right now I just want to use it as a way to get some face-to-face connection with the students and have them ask questions on anything that we're doing, any projects that are going on, and just have them have a place, like I think Ismat was talking, like it makes it like a real school setting. So I think the more real we can make it, the better it might have them with that transition. So I want to just try to get them face-to-face at first.
Now, what's the feedback been from the students in your class? Positive, negative?
Well, I haven't instituted it yet, so that's going to have to be from Ismat's going to have to do the student response.
Okay, and now Ismat, your scenario has been a little bit different. You started off using Zoom and you found that Meet has been more successful for you. Can you just explain a little bit what are some of the advantages and disadvantages and why you've kind of gravitated towards Google Meet?
First, I'd like to thank you, definitely, Jerry, for such an opportunity to discuss and share successful and unsuccessful experiences to help all of us hopefully move forward. I have tried using Zoom as my first option. I was kind of excited about it. I liked it. I tried it with Ms. Kobus. Both of us were good. I managed to hear her. She managed to hear me. We shared the screen. We did raising the hand. I managed to take over as the facilitator. Everything worked well. However, when I tried it with my students, I gave them the link ahead of time where they should download the app or the software in their computers. So they did that. And I went into teaching, and I was teaching, and it looked like they were hearing me. However, after the 30 minutes of going over whatever examples I wanted to go over, one student raised her hand and said, "Ms. Sheri, we could not hear anything." And I was recording the meeting with my students. So I went back, I listened to it, and yeah, they could not hear me. I couldn't even hear myself. So my experience with it was not successful. So I had to switch to Google Meet. And with Google Meet, I have to say I was successful there. The recording feature came up. It wasn't there. This is why I went to Zoom in the first place. But now I'm able to record, and that's the most important feature that I really needed besides sharing screen. So I did invite the students. I sent them a link of a session, a virtual classroom, that's how I call it. And we managed to meet. And I had about 19 students active there. I did the teaching. What I don't like that they can, number one, take over my screen if they want to misbehave. They can really, they don't have a feature where they can raise their hands. I like the raise their hand feature in Zoom. They don't have that. But my kids behaved very well. I was very proud of them. I managed to finish my lesson, and then I managed to record it. Then I took my lesson, I uploaded it to my YouTube. And I really wanted to do the YouTube because I was able to put it in my YouTube channel and then share the link with my students. And there I was able to see how many times it was viewed. So I see that students actually went to my lessons and actually viewed them, those students who weren't. So my experience with Google Meet was a more successful experience than with Zoom.
Now, did you want to share the screen of how you kind of set up your class with this?
Yes, I would actually.
While you're doing that, Isma, while you're sharing that, let me just ask Aaron quickly, like, do you know, or do you have any guidance from administration as far as what we should be doing regarding posting students straight to YouTube? Do we need to make those videos private? Can those videos be public on YouTube? You know, what do we need to do to make sure that we're doing it the right way?
I would definitely utilize your Google Classroom and post everything in there versus making everything public. This way you can kind of safeguard your stuff as well as also the students, so no one can really access what you're doing in your classroom.
I was going to tell teachers later, I think this is the best practice, but whenever we're posting students' name, aren't we supposed to post their first name and then the first initial, their last name, just to protect the students' identities?
It is best. You have to remember too, if they don't have a media release or the form on file, you cannot post a picture of them or their name on any type of social media. So do be aware if you do have students that are not given that permission, that should also not be accessed or posted on social media.
Isma, are you ready?
Yes, I'm ready.
Okay.
Okay, so let me go ahead and try it, share screen. And I'd like to share, this.
Ooh.
I don't know if you can see me. Can you see my screen?
You just came back, yep.
Okay, so you can see my Google Classroom, right? Oh, I see it now. Very good. Okay, so last week when we met with Jerry, he made a great suggestions on actually utilizing the calendar to create the announcement. I actually had tried it before, and it's actually the best way for me to keep my things organized. So I went to create the calendar, to create an item, and I called my item Mrs. Shuri office hours, however it's called. And then I added the where it says add room location conferences. So I did add the conferences, and I got my name. If I drop down here, this is what I got the information of those hours. And it's very important that I'm giving it a name. So if I call it Mrs. Shuri's office hours, I will keep that name moving forward. And I like that I'm keeping the name. So I know myself and the students know I'm always in the right place and right channel, because I have like several channels running around, a channel for office hour, a channel for virtual learning. And what I made it do here when I went to reminder, when I went actually after I set it up, I made it appear every day, 5 days a week. And that means Monday through Friday, because I have my office hours every day from 11 to 11:30. So I managed to save. I'm going to go ahead and discard that one. So if you take a look right here, you should see my office hours. I think they're right there, Miss Shuri office hours. And it's popping every day, every weekday, Monday through Friday. Okay, again, I do have the link. The link is right there. So all what I have to do is just really copy that link. I can take that link with me, and now let me go to Google Classroom. In Google Classroom, I posted the link as an announcement. However, I tell my students that this is an active link. You don't have to create a link every time you're going to meet the students. So all what you have to do, just post it once, and that's it. And what I did here, I posted the link right there. This is my link, class video, and I gave it a name. I called it, hold on, here it is actually, Mrs. Shuri conference time at 11 a.m. through 11:30. I kind of tried to distinguish the design so it will be visible for my students. Not only that, I went to the drop down and I made that link always on the top. I do have 3 links on the top in my Google Classroom, a link that goes for the virtual classroom, a link for the office hours, and a link for a running answer key. So all what my students have to do is just click on this link, and look what happens when I click here now. Hopefully you see the click. If you look at the, let's see, look at the title, Mrs. Shuri office hours, which is what I really like. I don't think it allowed me to put a comma. I'm not sure. That's why the comma is not there. I mean the apostrophe. So all what they have to do, join in, and whenever they join in, I know now I'm at office hours. Or even when my students come to join me, they know that they are at the right link. So this is for this particular link. If I go to the other one where I have my virtual classroom, if I click right here, and I made this come also every day at whatever time I'm meeting that particular class, if you look at the top, it says Mrs. Shuri virtual classroom, and this is Honors Algebra 2, and I have another link for the Algebra 2B. So my suggestion is, again, you don't have to recreate these links. You really need one link, and that's it. That link stays alive. Students can access it at all times. Now students know that they can go there even when I'm not there to speak, and I do expect them to actually talk about math or chat in a nice way, but that link is always there available for everyone. So those are my suggestions regarding the Google Meet.
That's awesome.
All right, Erin, just like we were getting a couple questions in the message board.
Yeah.
And, you know, like the meet rooms are open, and just some best practices. I mean, obviously, like Isma is someone who, you know, puts in a lot of time. So, I mean, I would recommend with teachers who haven't used it the first time. It seems like a lot of teachers are successful just opening it up and meeting with students in a very informal way first until you get used to the functionality of it. And then,
Absolutely.
you know, if you want to go back to the video and see how Isma did things, I'd recommend, like, you know, this is going to take time. So, you know, just take it slowly.
Yep.
What as far about the liability of leaving this link open? Has that been discussed at all? I mean, I know I've heard these conversations happening behind the scenes a little bit.
So, you know, we're learning a lot too as we're going. We're finding new challenges with this. We do have a system in place that's called Bark that does monitor the emails of students. So we are receiving those on a, you know, almost daily basis. of things that come up that are, deemed inappropriate. I think once you start to get to use this with students, they use it in the right manner. We do have high school students, so you hope that their conduct would be, same as if it was in the classroom. I think this is a great method, especially to lessen the amount of work that's coming your way in all the different times. We're hearing a lot that it's like a 24/7. And I think with the office hours, you're really setting the students up for, they know when they can get you and they know this is the time and when to expect an answer from you. So it's not a 24/7. So I think I love the office hour.
I think that's interesting too. I mean, I've noticed I did my class at 9 o'clock in the morning and attendance hasn't been great, and that's an honors class. So just some things to think about. You might want to move it towards later in the day. I mean, our kids, you know how they are, especially, different levels, different expectations. I mean, your class, but I would say closer to noon is probably the time that they are just rolling out of bed. So that might be the best time to hold.
Studies have shown that high school likes to start later.
9 o'clock starts, yeah.
Actually, with the survey I did, they did ask me to start later. It's like one of the, I asked in a survey I submitted to the students, any suggestions? Like, could you start the classroom like an hour, 2 hours later? And I was starting at 10 o'clock. I'm like, okay, let me see.
I'm just moving on to the next thing I kind of wanted to talk about today, Erin. This is kind of why you're here. I know you're like the unit planning expert around Hamilton West. I know we're all supposed to be unit planning in a certain way or encouraged to unit plan, but honestly, it's not an easy transition going from, traditional. But my question is, and the reason why I bring it up is I think unit planning is actually probably beneficial in distance learning. And I just wanted to ask you whether you agree with the idea of unit planning being beneficial for distance learning.
Right now, we're kind of going 2 weeks at a time, so it's difficult to say. We haven't gotten a long period of time where we know if this is going to continue or not. So we're kind of taking this day by day at this point, but in the long run, I could see unit planning definitely being beneficial because everyone's going to go at a different pace. Your classes are going to go at a different pace. Students' availability with technology is going to impact. So you really want to look at the bigger picture, and that's what unit planning allows you to do. It allows you to make those choices, plan those activities, look at assessments, and not be stuck in that day-to-day, I have to get this done today, versus what is my long goal in 2-3 weeks? What should we have accomplished in this time? That's why I like unit planning, because it doesn't allow, that day-to-day worry that I didn't get everything done. How am I going to make it up? It's, no, I have till the end of the month to be able to get these objectives, taught. So, and each class is going to be different. I love it. That's my special ed background. But it's not for everyone. And right now, I think we're going day by day versus really looking at the long run at this point.
I mean, one of the reasons why I bring it up is because going into break now, I'm assuming teachers are going to get back to planning and figuring out what they're going to do coming out of spring break. So I'm just trying to get a little bit of heads up for teachers who are interested in changing maybe the way that they teach for distance learning and trying to introduce at least some aspects of unit planning. Now, as teachers begin to plan, are you someone who uses backward planning and starts with the end goal of their unit and then works their way backwards, or how do you go about planning a unit, Erin?
So again, I always had a unique situation when I was doing it in the classroom, but I did actually look at what were my big projects, what did I want them to accomplish, and then I did kind of work my way back to the objective. It helped in seeing the end goal for me, and then I looked at each individual from there. But I always looked at what was my big end goal, where did I want my students to be when I was done with these, each everyday lesson.
And the other question I have is when I started trying to do it, my first one in this scenario was easy because I was doing an essay, and an essay is a goal, it's a skill, and the content was a little bit out of my normal content. I chose current topics. I think the hard thing about unit planning is, especially when you're a teacher who's been in the content for 20, 30 years, is trying to decide whether my ultimate outcome is content-based or it's more skill-based, and combining the two can be really, really hard. Do you have any tips as far as that's concerned? Trial and error.
You have to really see, and each group's going to be different. You might have kids that thrive with that hands-on component and want to do that project-based, and then you're going to have ones that are going to love the essays, that are going to love maybe presenting and looking at a little bit different. That's why I think when you're doing unit planning, you can add in those extra activities and really kind of pick and choose what works best for that class. And don't be so set on it has to be this or it has to be that. Allowing choice in there as well. We're in high school, but even choice boards or having checklists of different activities that, students could use as assessments. You want to make sure that your assessments are consistent with the objectives, but it doesn't mean every assessment has to be the same.
One of the things I was thinking about that would help me, because I can't always think of like a cohesive unit right off the top of my head. And for some teachers, it's easier to kind of plan like a week or two at a time and have a general idea further out. The idea of alternative assessments, especially as I hear my students telling me that they're cheating like crazy on some of these online tests. The idea of a portfolio where like each section can be a different project in a way. And then at the end, they kind of just all hand it in as one portfolio. So it's not necessarily a cohesive unit in the traditional sense where you're working and building on a skill, but maybe 4 separate activities to cover like 4 sections of a textbook, and then just having them hand it all in as one alternative assessed portfolio. Would you recommend?
Absolutely. We do that as the seniors CRT to make sure that they graduate. Putting together portfolios. We put together portfolios in the special ed department all the time. I think it's a great way as an alternative assessment. The students actually have to be reliable and collect the work and keep it organized, as well as it also gives you a picture of the different objectives over time. And you could kind of see some students are going to thrive with the alternative assessments and some are going to struggle because they're so used to paper and pencil and that traditional test quiz format. So again, it's going to be really that flexibility to see what works for what students. Not everyone's going to, go right for those project-based type learning, but I think with the technology we have and the collaboration, you are able to allow students to do partner work and even collaborate in, Google that maybe we're not using quite yet.
Yeah, my recommendation to teachers now is just to take it slow. The students are learning at this too, so anything you're uncomfortable with, I would make an extended. Anthony, you said you're kind of working a lot slower. Are you trying new things, or are you just moving slower, trying to incorporate old ideas?
Yeah, I was looking at some of the questions on the live comments, and people were asking if we were doing new material. I said the first week I was doing new material and I was given an assignment every day, and I realized that was too much for them and me to keep up with. So I was doing kind of what like Aaron was saying, as I was breaking it up and giving an assignment like ISMAT we were talking about, and I give an assignment on Monday, it'll be due on Wednesday. I'll give an assignment on Wednesday, it'll be due on Friday, and give them some space to do it and also some space for me to give proper feedback, because it was just too much, which is why I like what Aaron was saying about the unit planning. Is I did my 10 lessons, and I realized after the 2 weeks, I only got to 4 of the lessons because I had to modify everything. So like when you see my lessons I hand in, it's like the last week is going to be the same as the week before because I'm still trying to catch up on all my stuff. But I think, Jerry, you brought it up, but that was Aaron was bringing it up too, is the peer reflection and peer looking at each other's work. And I said from the chat room or the question room and letting kids respond to replies, I was having sort of debates, and that took a lot of the pressure off of me trying to be the leader of every class and just be a facilitator. So I've kind of put a little bit more on the student to do things, but I have been teaching new material. I've just been going really slow and pared it down a lot.
I know that one of the main questions we're going to get, and Aaron, I know I think you have a meeting coming up. And there's not much you can say. Aaron says she has a meeting today, but grading. Just tell us where we stand now as far as what we're supposed to be doing with grading, like as of today.
So as of today, like we said, today we have a meeting at 1:00. The district's supposed to send something out this week regarding the official grading. What I've been seeing, not just in our district, but in other districts, is where everyone's in the same boat. Everyone's kind of, are we counting assessments? Are we, looking at traditional grading? How are we going to move forward with remote learning? Because again, I don't think anyone saw that we were going to be going on week 3 and week 4. So now it's really come crunch time that we have to make these decisions on what grading is going to look like. Our end of the marking period for the third marking period is coming up. So I think we're going to have some tough discussion this afternoon, and we'll definitely get that information out to you. I don't want to say anything now because I don't know as far as what the district is thinking and what the policy is going to look like. But I definitely think we're going to have more grading than we originally thought for remote learning because, again, it's going to go longer than we think.
Aaron, before you leave, Laura had a good question about attendance. Are we supposed to be doing attendance for the kids or?
So you can definitely track your students' attendance. And then the good thing is what students are using paper-based, who's picking up packets, who's not checking in at all. And then you can make on the home contact list, let us know who you haven't reached. So we can start also reaching out to those students because we know there are students that we have not yet made contact with, or we need to figure out, are they doing the home-based packet work, or are they doing because they don't have technology? We did give out over 100 computers last week. So hopefully that does help increase the number of students that are checking in this week with you. But it's still not perfect. And we still have students that don't have the technology access that we need them to have. So we do want to make sure that we have everyone counted for attendance. So it is great for you to keep individual attendance for your classes.
Does that mean, should we put it on PowerSchool since we do have access still to put
At
attendance?
this point, no, we're not recording anything. I would just, for your own notes, at this point, until we get any further information.
Are we supposed to be doing summatives? Everything I've read says no, just formative and individual practice right now.
So again, it's most likely going to change because now we're looking at a lengthier time. We were looking at just a 2-week period of time of remote learning, which is now not the reality, is that this is going to at least continue past spring break. So it is going to be discussed today as far as what does summatives look like.
All right. Thank you, Aaron.
Yeah, no problem.
Thanks, Aaron.
Taking podcast, we ask the tough questions.
Anytime.
Just kind of throwing it out there to the audience. We actually have a lot of people in the room today. It's kind of nice. The biggest frustration I seem to be getting from teachers is the grading aspect of things. Both like as far as students not handing things in and then having to track students down, as far as their access to paper/digital. I mean, on different levels, it's different. Also, just with the amount of grading, I don't think anybody was prepared for this moving in, and teachers, don't realize how much grading happens in class, where you just kind of review things, and how individual grading and giving so much feedback to kids on a daily basis has been really, really time consuming. Anthony, could you just give a little input as far as how stressed out grading has been, and any adjustments you guys have made to make your life easier regarding grading?
Yeah, I said that first week was kind of rough. I was giving everything out. It was due the next day. I was trying to give as many personal comments as I could for feedback. And I realized that first week I was spending probably 8 hours just on comments and grading. And then it was kind of, I just didn't know the disconnect, because when we talked to Eric, our curriculum supervisor, he told us that we shouldn't be grading anything. But I realized when I did put a grade in that was a 0, kids were getting it in, but the couple times I didn't put any parameters on PowerSchool, nobody was handing anything in. So once I put it as an assignment on Google Classroom, people started handing it in once they saw that they were going to have some maybe negative consequences. I accept anything late or anytime they give it to me as full credit just because of their own situation. But like I said, I pared down. I've been using more of the chat room for Google Classroom so that they can interact and have debates by themselves, and I can just monitor that. And I said, as Laura was saying, is I don't give an assignment every day now that I do the next day. I give them some time just so that they can get their head wrapped around it as well as I. So that's what I'm doing, more project stuff, I think, moving forward, just to give more time to everybody on their own time to do what they got to do.
It's not.
My first week was overwhelming. My students are already trained to take Google, to take quizzes and formative assessments via Google Form. So my first week, I was already, if I had been in the classroom, I would have given a quiz on that Monday, but we weren't. My students were expecting it, so I just skipped the plan. I gave a quiz on Google Form. The students took it. I got the results. After that, I started to kind of review whatever material I gave them before we went off. And I was expecting homework to be done on a daily basis, submitted on a daily basis, and it has been overwhelming, very overwhelming. I don't know if it's only in math or in everybody else. Sometimes you just get the final correct answer, and when you look between the line, there's nothing there that supports that answer. And this is where really I had to look at every question and leave comments. It was happening in a day by day, but then I approached it differently. I started to assign an assignment on Monday, making it due Tuesday. I make my assignments always due 11:59, so I know the students themselves are overwhelmed. When I spoke to them, they were telling me, Ms. Shuri, we finish homework at 8 o'clock. We finish homework at 10 p.m. And so I made my homeworks really go up to 11:59 as long as it's done. And that gave me a little bit of a window where I can plan and grade. Grading is still questionable. I have to find a better way to grade because I have to go in details. I have to leave feedback. I have noticed that I'm doing also repetitive work. I leave the feedback in Google Classroom. Then I go to Power School and I say, go back and check Google Classroom. And students don't really do that on the day off. On Friday, I got a student who submitted something that was due March 16th. So submitting work late also has been getting onto me because they see I'm always putting zeros there. So I really need to find a better system where I'm holding them accountable. Maybe submit late for one day only. Beyond that, that's it. Or email me. I'll work with you, see what needs to be done.
We're trying to make sure that you get to bed before 5 o'clock in the morning, Ismat. So
I will be lucky if I go to bed at 5 o'clock in the morning.
I want to also add to Ismat is I also started doing last week, instead of trying to get in touch with everybody for every assignment, one assignment I'll just cherry pick 8 to 12 kids and I'll give them a question and then they answer it. And then the next assignment I'll ask a different third of kids. And then by the end of the week, I'll ask the next third of kids so that by the entire week, I touch base with each group of kids, which allows me to give more detailed feedback just to a few kids on an assignment and, just touch base with them instead of trying on every assignment to get everybody a feedback. So I kind of broke it up into thirds by the alphabet, just by their chart on who I give feedback to on what assignment. And it's not the perfect way, but it at least gets more feedback without having to do as much grading as we were talking about.
all right, that brings me to my tip of the week. Which is going to be student feedback. Now, I know the immediate response from half the people in the room right now are going to be like, I can't get my students to give any type of student feedback. But I really think that trying slowly to get students interacting with students online is going to really save teachers a lot of time with grading. I think one of the ways to do this is to give them a reason to show up online. Maybe like your first project coming out of break or the first thing that you do, make it easy and make it fun. And then create just a space where students can kind of pop in and do it with just maybe not incredibly skill-based. I mean, I know it's hard for some of these math teachers, but just something very simple early on to get students interacting. So Laura's here. I know Laura's the one who I've handed off my matrix to, and she probably uses it way more than me this year in class. And this is kind of my tip. All right. I'm actually going to share my screen a little bit for this. All right. Why would we use? I shared the wrong one. Hold on. All right. So why would we use student feedback? The thing that I've noticed with student feedback is that it's going to make your life easier. When I give a test in school, and I'm sure you guys notice this too, if I grade it a week later, they already don't care. They look at the grade and they actually don't look at the comments or the responses. But when I actually do a Google form and they get immediate response, like they can't wait to see the answers right after the test. So students need quick feedback. Student feedback is a way where they can hand something in and students the next day could be giving feedback. A couple of things that I've noticed with it is You want to explain to the students, you have the screen here of tips. You want to explain the purpose of peer feedback, why we're doing it. Instant feedback is one aspect of it. It helps the students learn the assessment criteria. How many times do we hand out a rubric and you tell the student, did you look at the rubric, and you realize that as much time as you spent creating a rubric, that they didn't even look at the rubric and they're not even looking at how you're grading it. You give them that rubric and have them grade each other. It does give them a reason to look at it and kind of understand how and why you're grading as far as when you're working on a different skill. They might not be great at giving feedback early on, and you're probably going to notice that they're not going to be great early on. So what you really probably need to do, and like I said, don't be overwhelmed. This is something that's going to take time, but if we're going to be doing this for a while, I do think in the long run it'll make your life easier, and you might actually even be take this into your regular teaching when we move back. But you have to model the type of feedback that you want the students to give early on. So early on, you might be doing most of the grading, and then later on in the scenario, you can turn it over to them. A couple other things, student feedback tips. The one thing that you're going to notice, and Laura, if you're there, you're probably going to notice that early on, you're going to see students give really horrible feedback to each other. You did good because I liked it. And what we need to think of is why are students giving horrible feedback? And my suggestion is, and there's tips here, like have students be specific, have them be balanced. I mean, students don't like criticizing other students, but the other thing that you're going to notice is when students do work for other students, they actually give better work. They don't care when I read their work that it's garbage, but they care when other students read their work that it's garbage. So you're actually going to notice an improvement in writing when they're writing for an audience. And that's kind of important because they get used to just writing to you and they get used to how you grade things. And in their head, they're like, oh, Mr. Van Sluten doesn't like me, so I'm just going to hand in garbage because I always get a bad grade. Now, when they're using the rubric and they're assessing other students' work, they might see in your feedback or in other students' feedback to other students what. So I always like modeling other students' work. Now, here's kind of, and I want to make this quick. I got all this on my podcast section of my website. I looked all over the other day for like student feedback tools other than the PQP, which is what I use, and I think Laura uses the PQP too. It's basically how I think administrators are supposed to be doing our reviews in its most basic format: praise, polish, question. All right, and that's what you give students. It's basically what is one good thing that they have in whatever you're giving, what is one thing that they need to fix, and some question that maybe is not in there at all that would lead to like more research. To me, this is especially good if you do like fun little digital activities early on. You have the kids post them, you have them read each other, and then you go to the message board and you have them give each other feedback. And then you on the outside just moderate their feedback. Now, what are we asking for? To me, I always think the why because, and this is literacy skills. If they're giving feedback, they can't just say that it's good. They have to say specifically something from the picture, whatever it is that they're evaluating, and the why. So why because. So they have to cite the article or the picture or whatever, something specific from it, and then in their own words. So that's all you'd be grading is you can make it a one-sentence response. Why because. Bonari, Ismail, I mean, do you think that that would be helpful to you guys, or what problems do you see in implementing it?
I think it would be really good. It's just going to take time, that's all. And the longer we do this, the easier it will be moving forward. So if we start it now and we have to go till God knows how long, it will make it easier moving forward. Because I said, that's the biggest thing is just trying to get feedback on everything. And you're right, the kids, they'll do better work for each other than they will for us any day. So that's if they know that's a possibility, even if you're not going to do it, I think that would be great.
Yeah, I
makes me more proud as a coach than watching my kids critique other athletes. If you notice your students actually giving good critique to other students, that is a really, really good moment as a teacher, I would think. Aaron, you were going to say something? I'm sorry.
Yeah, I agree. I think you just got to start small and, you're going to have to walk them through it. It's got to be step by step at this point. And then I think you will see the end result. But again, don't get frustrated. Don't overwhelm. Just go step by step and continue to provide them and model and give them examples.
Here's the one thing that I don't even know where I came up with. I think I was working with Laura, and she uses it now. It's my group matrix. So basically, what I would do is I would just put my class in here. And if you're going to be posting things online, one tool that I think they recommend is you just put the student's first name and then the first initial of their last name. So say I had Mary S right here. All right, and then I would put all my students in here. Now, the one thing you're going to say is, what if students don't show up? And I was thinking about this weekend. What I would recommend doing is putting a new box below here. And then just kind of making this one like in here, I'll write, email me if your name is missing. And for the students who don't show up, just don't put them in there. And then you're not calling them out and saying like this person, these are students who are not in here. You just say, email me if you were missing. So you're not mentioning any names specifically, and they're off the matrix. And then if they email you and they want to get back on there, then they're going to participate again. Most kids probably are not going to email you who won't participate. They're off the matrix, and then students are getting feedback from students. So what I normally do is once this is filled out, I would say column 1 reviews column 2, column 2 reviews column 3, column 3, column 4 back to column 1. Or on other days, I might change it up and I'll say row 1 does row 2. So they're getting feedback from different students depending on, and it makes it so easy for me to change, you know, the groupings as far as students without even changing the rubric. It really makes it easy. Now, the hard part is you're probably asking is like, where are students seeing their work? And this is one of the things that's happening today is the hyperlink, and no one knows how to hyperlink. So like you said, if you're going to do this slowly, and this is why I'm bringing this up now, maybe this week, all you want to do is have your students hyperlink and set up a matrix. If you're not even working on peer editing yet, right now, just get the students to actually hyperlink. So to hyperlink, it's really easy. You just highlight the name here, all right? Double click over the name, and you right click on the link button right here. And then they just go into their Google Doc of whatever that they created. They would change the share settings so that other people, if they wanted them to edit, which they probably wouldn't, so just so that they can view, and they would just hyperlink whatever it is that you digitally handed out to them on their name. And then when the other students go in, they would just click on the student's hyperlink that they're supposed to review. And then you can go to the message board and have them give feedback to it so that you can see the feedback. Does that make sense? Does that make sense to you?
Yeah, it does. That would make it a lot easier.
So then you just have all their projects hyperlinked on there. Then as you go to the next phase in the project, like you can have them continually do it as the project evolves. And then they could check in with another person and get another person's feedback and check in with another. And you could either make the comments on the document or you can make the comments in the message board and just post the matrix to the top of the message board. That's just one tool that I think can help teachers in the long run. It may be a little bit of work in the beginning as you model it. So you might want to have them actually hyperlink it this week as they're doing a project, and you give the feedback and model the PQP, and then just say, why, because I like your project because you did this, and I like that because of this. And that's a simple literacy skill right there that we're teaching kids. And really, like, and how much depth can we get in this scenario when we're not going to be giving tests in the way that we normally give tests? And I just feel like this would provide some quick feedback for kids to get kids interactive. Does anyone have any questions? I wasn't reading the message board. Anything in there?
Now we're ready. You're talking about everything we're doing. And my thing is, I said, I just, no matter what they hand in, I'm being positive with them too, just so that they keep on wanting to hand stuff in.
Yeah, I think part of it's just, and this is going to be the hard part, is especially when this is all new to us, is just thinking of some fun things that we can do with them. I mean, who knows how this is affecting different kids in different ways. And I know we get caught into like wanting to make sure that we get done the things that we always got done, but I'm pretty sure this is a little different than anything we've been through. And you know, that it's just going to require us to be a little bit different and just maybe a little bit creative in some ways. All right, I just want to finish up. I want to thank everybody for coming today. I know this one went a little bit long. One thing I did notice that helped me this weekend is freedom. I think we all need a little bit of freedom and time away. So make sure that you guys plan time in your weekends or in your days to get away from the computer. And I actually started the Kindle because I was reading on my phone, and then I'd get on my phone, I'd start reading, and I'd get an email from someone, or I'd get a classroom update or whatever. And the Kindles helped me this weekend actually get away, even though it still is a digital tool. It helped me get away from this a little bit. And I feel like even administration, it seems like, has made an effort not to too much on the weekends, because the weekend email feed has been really slow, and I think we appreciate that, and
Very nice.
a little bit of time to get away. So I want to thank everybody for coming. I'm going to try to do this every Monday. I'm not sure if I'm going to do it during spring break around 9 o'clock. I'm going to invite different guests. We're going to talk about different things. Subscribe, email me questions, email me ideas. If you want to share something and be on the podcast, please let me know. Remember, West is best. Anybody, anything to say on the goodbyes?
Have a great week, everyone.
Yeah, stay safe and healthy, everybody.
Be safe and healthy.
Peace out.
Bye, guys.